One of my main ideas behind doing my Wednesday episodes on comics is to try and be as new reader friendly as I can. Since I know a lot of people don't read comics generally, I like to take the time to explain certain things about Marvel or DC or the world of collecting in general, like what a long box is. And of course I'm not perfect. For example, I've mentioned DC's New 52 a lot in this series and never really explained what it is. Short answer, the New 52 is the name given to the line-wide relaunch of DC Comics from back in 2011. An attempt to start fresh and bring new readers in. But the long answer is a lot longer than that, as the New 52 has come to represent so much more than just DC starting over again. It's almost become shorthand to represent the positive and negative aspects of DC Comics and current comic book publishing in general. To truly get into what the New 52 is would take more than one episode, and since it's the 3-year anniversary of the relaunch as well as the 1-year anniversary of this channel, I decided that now would be a perfect time to go into a full-on retrospective of what the New 52 is. Let's start with a little history. To truly get into what the New 52 is at a base level, we need to talk about comic book continuity. To truly understand what the New 52 is at a base level, we need to talk about comic book continuity. See, the way superhero comics work is that they're essentially telling one big, long story that doesn't have an end. Things that happened to, let's say, the Hulk back in 1962 when his comic first debuted, still happened in his story, and are part of his history even to this day. Now, as you can imagine, over the years, as more and more stories are being told, continuity becomes very unwieldy and convoluted. Publishers are always looking for ways to streamline continuity and keep it in check, and Marvel and DC go about it in very different ways. Marvel generally tends to keep things moving forward. They never reset their continuity. They either flat out ignore it, or they come up with excuses for why what you read isn't really what you read. Now, DC generally does the same thing, but they also have the tendency to completely reboot everything and start over from scratch. The first time they did this was in 1985 with the Crisis on Infinite Earths. This was a 12-issue maxi series that completely wiped away the old continuity issue by issue and set the stage for the new continuity that was to come. After this series, a lot of new comics debuted, several actually relaunched with new number ones, while other legacy titles like Action and Detective Comics kept their original numbering but just started the new continuity. The Crisis on Infinite Earths set up a new status quo for the entire DC line, not just one title, everything. And this was the status quo for pretty much 20 years, up until Infinite Crisis in 2005. Infinite Crisis was essentially the same thing but on a much smaller scale. Continuity wasn't so much reset from zero, as much as ideas from pre-1985 started bringing their way back into the present day. And these changes stayed pretty much until 2011, with the miniseries Flashpoint rebooting everything again. Only this time things were much more drastic. Again, every book got a new status quo, but every book was also cancelled and then relaunched again with a new number one the next month. This includes Action Comics and Detective Comics, both of which have been in continuous publication since the 1930s. Also, everybody got hip new redesigns by DC co-publisher Jim Lee. Just look at all them lines, man. The name given to this relaunch was the New 52 because at the time there were 52 brand new number one issues debuting in the month of September of 2011. And at any given time, DC will be putting out 52 comics every month. Now the point of the New 52 was to simplify and streamline continuity again, but also to entice new and lapsed readers back into the world of comics. Did it work? Kinda, yeah. In the first month, about 10 titles sold north of 100,000 copies, which was unheard of at the time. Their lowest selling comic for the month was OMAC at 33,000 copies sold. To put that in perspective of what the comics market was like at the time, IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, which launched a month before the New 52 did, sold 34,000 copies of its first issue. So when your worst selling comic for the month is doing just as well as the best selling comic of somebody else, I feel like you're doing something right here. For months, DC was the king of the sales charts, sometimes even occupying every spot in the top 10. There were even months where Aquaman was outselling everything Marvel was putting out. Think about that for a minute. But of course, nothing lasts forever. While sales are certainly stronger now than they were before the relaunch, other publishers, especially Marvel, have caught up. And generally, nothing sells north of 100,000 copies anymore, with the exception of Batman. With that said, the New 52 was still a great force in reviving DC, and really reviving the comic book industry in general at the time. It got people into comic stores, many for the first time in a long time, and many for the first time ever. And now they were also releasing digital comics the same day as their physical ones. And for the first time, digital comics became a true force to be reckoned with. That's not to say everything was perfect and that the New 52 launch didn't have its detractors. It certainly did. A big problem was the actual titles that DC was putting out at the time. Only about half the titles put out were really good, and a bunch of them were canceled after only 8 issues. And despite the fact that the whole universe was starting over from zero again, and everybody was getting a fresh start, there were still a lot of continuity problems that plagued the New 52 even to this day. But that's something we're going to have to talk about next week. So make sure you subscribe to this channel to catch part 2 of our New 52 retrospective. Also, like this video and share it with your friends. Why not? Also, leave comments down below and hit me up on Facebook and Twitter with your opinions on the New 52. Were you excited for the relaunch, or did you have your reservations about it? Let me know, and I will see you next time. But the bigger controversy comes from this variant cover by Milo Morana, an Italian comic book artist known for his erotic work. His most famous work is the comic book Click, which is just porn. It's porn. Like, I can't even show you the cover because you see vagina on it.
Here's the thing, I know the scam. I know that like 95% of Marvel's covers have nothing to do with their interior. They're usually just cash grabs, revealing, something that'll happen 10 issues from the actual issue that the cover is on. But for whatever reason, I just gravitate towards it.